Hello friends, this is my 6th wrap up of the year, which means we're halfway through 2026, which just feels crazy. Good? The year is flying by. And that means after this, I need to film a quarterly wrap up where I talk about like my favorites and my least favorites from the entire quarter. And then besties get a rant session of everything that I hated in the quarter. One of those books is in this stack. So first, let's look at my stats. Check them out. Aren't they beautiful? My average rating for the month was unfortunately a 3.6. I started the year really good with a 3.8 every month. And then this quarter has been more like 3.6s, 3.5s. But we're not talking about the quarter. We're just talking about this month. And I actually only had 1 2-star the entire time. I just also didn't have any 5 stars. So my rating has gone down averagely a little bit, but I had a lot of 4s. I had a lot of 3s. So let's go through all of the books that I've already read and shown you in videos. This first stack is ones that I liked, that I own, that I'll probably keep unless I'm doing like a serious on haul where I need to get rid of anything that was in the 3s. Because Canon and Son of the Morning, which I read for this video, they were both 3.75s. So like almost 4s, you know what I mean? This is by A Quick Game Messy, 3.75. This is by Paige Lewis, 3.75. This video, I read these 2 books. This one also 3.75, Plastic Prism Void by Violet Allen. And this one was a 4, We Dance Upon Demons by Vaishnavi Patel. I read some sports books in this video, another 3.75, Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. A 4-star, The Open Era by Edward Schmidt. And the closest I got to a 5-star this month, a 4.5, to Dixon Descending by Karen Outen. Then I read books that shocked you, and I read these 3, also some other ones, but categorically these are ones that I own, that I might keep. I could see myself getting rid of The Family Experiment at some point by John Mars. This was a 3.5. I also gave a 3.5 rating to The Mysterious Case of the Alperton Angels by Janice Hallett. In the video I said 3.75 and I didn't mean it. And then Rejection by Toni Tulathamute was a 4.25. So those are books that I bought either for videos or for myself and that I'll probably keep. And then these 3 are ones that I bought that I'll probably, I'll definitely get rid of by the end of the year. I'll donate them somewhere. Also in the sports video, The 710 Split by Carmen Lee, which was a 3, and The Long Game by Rachel Reed, also a 3. And then this one also a 3-star in the Shocking video, The Safekeep by Yael van der Wouden. Then my stack of library books that I read this month, I will be keeping an eye out for physical copies to own myself. Definitely for Her Last Breath by Taylor Adams, which I gave 4 stars. And then William by Mason Coyle, which I gave a 4.25. I actually listened to the audiobook from the library for this, but then my hold came in just yesterday, so I thought, let's hold it up for a video. In fact, the photo that I took this month for all of my books, my book stack photo, this is the first time this year I've had all of the books ready to hold. I didn't have to Photoshop any of them in. And then I'll probably, if I see this on sale somewhere, I'll grab The Prospects by K.T. Hoffman. This one was a 4. And then this one I'm just going to return. It was a 3.5, 3.75, Fair Play by Katie Barnes. Happy to have read it. Don't need to own it because I don't think I would reread it. But if it came out like another version of it in the future with more like timely information as time goes on, I would definitely purchase myself a copy. And that's all the books that I've locked this month that you've already seen. And then we are just left with a stack of things that I read on my own time in between vlogs. I'll tell you my ratings of all of them and then we'll go through them one by one. So the Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon, Volume 3 by Beth Brower, I gave a 4. 5 by Ilona Bannister, I also gave a 4. Fake It Till You Bake It by Jamie Wesley, I gave a 2. Temporary by Hilary Lecter, I gave a 3. The Union of Synchronized Swimmers by Christina Sandu, I gave a 3. And Sublimation by Isabel J. Kim, I gave a 3. I'll start there because this is like the saddest review. Obviously, like I always say, 3 is not a bad rating. 3 doesn't mean I hated the book. But when I'm anticipating a new release so much and then it's just okay, it's a bit of a bummer. I wrote out my little review and what I wanted to say about it to you, and then I went on Goodreads to see what other people were thinking about it. And something that I said is that this would have been so much better as a novella. And I found out via people's reviews, it turns out this was a short story and it got turned into a full-length novel. So maybe I should have just read that short story if I knew it existed, because conceptually this is so interesting and that's why I picked it up. And the first 100 pages I found really strong, and then we just kind of waffled for 170 pages. And the last 100 pages were quite good. This just felt too long for sure and didn't really know where it wanted to go or what it wanted to be. Kind of like when you go to a meeting and you leave it going, this could have been an email, like this could have been a novella. It gets all those points and perspectives out of the way and like the intent of the book so early on. And then it's just so many like dynamic. For a science fiction book, it was much more character focused than like conceptually. We're following two sets of these instances, which is an explanation, a phenomenon when you emigrate, your body, your soul, your whatever is split into two versions of yourself, one remaining and one moving on somewhere else. So we have So-young and Rose. They are two versions of the same person, and one of them has been living outside, has left South Korea, but is coming back because there's a funeral to attend. And this is when the two instances reconnect, and they kind of, like, everyone in this situation has to decide if they want to merge back into one. They always have that option. And obviously there's a lot of themes here about immigration and about culture and leaving your home and feeling connected to your family or not. It's about their dynamic, reconnecting, making decisions, but also I feel like equally about another duo, Yujin and YG, who are not mentioned in the synopsis. They're just as important, and they get their own narrator in the audiobook. The audiobook is fantastic. There's this part, I got an early arc from the publisher, and there's this section, especially the production is so beautiful. It's done a couple times throughout the book, but the last time is especially impactful, where the voices are layered on top of each other, and there's this repetition that I just love so much. So if you're gonna pick this up, highly recommend the audiobook. It was a fantastic experience. There was some beautiful quotes that I remember listening to and just being like, oh my God, I love that. I love books that talk about storytelling within it, and especially culturally, stories that you grew up with, connection with tales and people telling you tales. And at the end of part 3, there's just this explanation of all of these different stories and how they're told differently. It's not that all Korean folktales end depressing, it's not a requirement, but Korea is also the country that developed the culture-bound word han, resentment, grief, sorrow, a sort of longing and anger against the rest of the world. All the old stories are bittersweet. The sun and the moon separated from each other, the rooster stuck in the well wailing at the moon, the man killing his other self after returning from the undersea palace, the man on the other side of the bay weighing his life and his love, like it's unrealistic to have something and not lose something in return, like it's unrealistic to have love without loss. The old stories understand that. There was moments like that of like beautiful quotes and lovely, rich things, but there was just not very much happening besides the interpersonal dynamics and making these decisions if people want to reintegrate, and also of these 4 that we're meeting, who likes who and who's going to betray who and who's responsible for what. And I wanted to love it, but I just found myself bored. Things definitely ramped up, and there was then this kind of espionage angle that I appreciated because something was happening, but I wasn't the most interested in. So yeah, this just kind of sits in the middle. I do like that this it wasn't like a metaphor for immigration. It wasn't like all of the border conversations that are happening right now and have happened throughout time are still a thing in this book. It's not like this replaces that, it's happening alongside it. And so everything thematically this book wanted to do and say, I appreciated. I just didn't love it the way that I wanted to. Especially because there's so much potential with that type of story. Like splitting yourself into 2, there's so much you could do with that, and that people could do like maliciously with that. And so maybe I would have liked this to be a series of novellas where we get an insight into different people's experience with this instance doppelganger situation. As for the Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon, this is the 3rd book, and I just find Emma really charming. In the first book, there was a lot of setup. Basically, the story is this woman. What year are we in? I don't remember, but each book takes place over like a 2-month period. And I remember when I was reviewing the first 2 books that I listened to because I got them really cheaply on Libro FM, and I actually got the first 4 or 5, I think. So I felt really committed to the series. And then once I read the second one, I was quite enjoying it. I gave that a 4. I gave the first one a 3. This one was also a 4. And I was saying that I kind of got the characters mixed up. I guess I wasn't paying attention to the audiobook because at the beginning it does introduce all of the players. But now that I have the physical copy, I can like look and remind myself who's who and who really matters. But the book did that on its own. Just the more you get to know people, the more you realize who they're going to be in the story, and especially who they're going to be to Emma. I think she's going to have a couple love interests throughout this very long spanning series. But right now she has a tenant living in her house. The story is she was left this manor, but there's still many people trying to control her and her finances, and she has to find different ways to make money and make a life for herself, all while just enjoying life and connecting with various people. Niall Pierce is very much who I feel like we're currently rooting for as a love interest for Emma, but I don't really know if the book is going to commit to her like truly dating anybody, or if it's just going to be these connections and these crushes, because there's like multiple potential suitors. But he, oh my God, in this book was just so committed to her success and like seeing that she was powerful. And this is exactly what I wanted in the series. When I started it, was for events to be happening. There was a game in here. There was a competition where she was trying to win tickets to something. And like there was so much Shakespeare inspired stuff in here. And it just felt very active. What would it take for a book in this series to get a 5 from me? Probably if she like gets it on with somebody. Yeah, not gonna lie. That's how I felt when I was reading, you know, Veronica Speedwell. It was like, you're not getting a 5 from me until you get it on. And I don't even have, it doesn't have to be on page. I just want her to like have that moment, because there feels this kind of tension, but it's very quiet. It's just the fact that they're kind of sharing a wall and they're in each other's quarters constantly, but they shouldn't be. And sometimes they're just like so peacefully like spending time together. And I'm just reading the page like, okay, like just sleep together. Like why not just sleep together, you know? As Sexy Red would say, like give a bitch some head or something. But alas, I don't think that will happen for Miss Emma M. Lyon, and therefore not for me as the reader, but I will survive. I'm having a good time. I think it's cutesy. Let's move on to one that wanted to be cutesy, but I'm annoyed by. I don't get it with this one, and I just think that romance is getting away with being really uninspired and having like tens of thousands of readers. Some of the romance that I pick up, I'm like, what are you guys doing? This just didn't have any substance, and it didn't pick a lane. And I want my romance to be something specific. I want it to be fun, or I want it to be funny, or I want it to be angsty, or I want it to be really deeply romantic, or make it a personal journey. Just like pick one. And this is just words on a page. It just existed. I don't know why these two people care about each other. I don't know why I'm supposed to care about them as characters. This was definitely a 2-star romance. He is a football player and also somehow runs a bakery full-time. We barely get any workplace stuff besides them baking occasionally, and the baking was wrong. It was incorrect. There was a moment in this book, I didn't tab it because of course this is a library book, where they put literally on the page, the author left us a recipe for cupcakes, vanilla cupcakes. She left the vanilla out of the recipe. That's one example of many where this book just was not well edited. It wasn't well researched, and that doesn't matter. Like, right, for most people that doesn't matter. But if you're not going to do anything interesting with the plot, then I'm going to hone in on the little details because I have nothing else to focus on. There was a reason that I was reading this. I thought it was something and it wasn't. And I thought, okay, well, I'll continue reading because it's fake dating. It wasn't fake dating. Like, and the reason for the fake dating didn't make any sense. The stakes didn't make any sense. She was on a reality show. People are kind of blackmailing her. It seems it's so silly and not in a fun way. There was nothing risking their relationship or like her livelihood, even though the book pretended that there was stakes. And then we're like never gonna mention this man's career or him doing anything to prepare for the next season of football. The book sets them up as enemies on the first page. She's insufferable and she's so mean about his bakery and his cupcakes for no reason. And then she ends up working there for reasons that don't really make sense. And then she pretends to be dating him, which doesn't make any sense. And then they like instantly fall for each other, which also doesn't make any sense because these two people have the least charisma. They are they have the least main character energy of romance protagonists I've read on a long time. Oh my gosh, 2 more 3-star reads. This was not my month. This one, Temporary, was my members TBR jar pick of the month, and I read the first chapter of all 9 of the books that I pulled from the jar, and this one had the most potential for something that I would love because it's really uniquely written and it's odd. It's about temporary work. We have a woman who is living in a world where she just does a job for like a day or a week or a month and just like is very quickly in and out of all of these jobs. And the writing is very strange and feels kind of like Dr. Seuss, Shel Silverstein, Alice in Wonderland kind of vibes. It's like quirky and it's fun and it's poetic, but I just couldn't fully get invested because I was interested in the plot, but the way that it was taking me there with the writing didn't let me enjoy it the way that I wanted to. Like, she's on a pirate ship for a good portion of this book, and I thought it was so fun, but I just didn't love how it was being delivered, which is different for me because usually it's the writing that pulls me in and then the plot maybe isn't that interesting, but I love the book just because of the quirky way that it exists. And this, I just couldn't appreciate in the way that I wanted to. It was absurdist. It's talking about like workplace politics, how work becomes your identity, capitalism doesn't care about you. There was this one funny scene where she was participating in this vote, and the vote was everyone getting together deciding how they should vote in the future, like how voting should actually function. And like, that's just a very funny concept. And the book existed like that. It was just constantly introducing these wackadoodle ideas with very clear commentary on the world and very strong themes. I feel like this is when I go to a museum and I look at a piece of art and I'm like, I respect this piece of art. I see it. I get it. But it's not like my favorite thing. But I didn't hate it. So it's a 3. Another quirkily written one is the Union of Synchronized Swimmers. So this I was planning to read for my sports vlog, but it didn't come in time. And it came like literally the day after I posted it. And I was like, let me just read it anyway. It's 102 pages and I'll maybe love it and wish that it had been in the vlog. But in fact, it was just okay. But I see why this one was specifically recommended to me. That's how I originally heard of it. Was I think I got 2 different comments about this book, and I can see externally why this should have been for me. It's told in 6 different sections, and then in between is this little italicized moment of these women from an unnamed Soviet state. They meet each other and they become the synchronized swimmers, and they're competing. A way for them to gain freedom and independence and away from the work that they've been doing. And we're basically like flashing back in those sections to just their passion for swimming and what they were up to. And then we're following the aftermath of each of them living in a different country. We see a couple pages of what she's up to. I like that idea, a little glimpse into each of their lives. But because this ultimately read like a short story collection, I started looking for what I look for in a short story collection, which is an oomph from each story, like a shocking moment or a final line that really makes an impact, just something that feels like this is important enough to stand alone as a story. And none of them were. They were just a little peek into somebody's existence, written fine, and interesting to see how the same type of person could end up in 6 different like versions of reality. But they didn't really elicit that much of a feeling either. I didn't feel like they were really hope-filled and beautiful, but they weren't devastatingly sad. They were just kind of realistic versions of life. Some of them bleak, some of them just like whatever. Glad I read it, but it was a 3. And then finally we have 5 by Ilona Bannister. This I have an entire hour-long live show discussion for the Literally Did Book Club because this was the pick. If I had read it first, would I have picked it for the book club? Yes, because most people really enjoyed this and it led to so many interesting conversations, and it was a really interesting book that I'm glad that I read, but it certainly was not a mystery thriller. There was a mystery. Somebody dies and the book is counting down to that death, and it does feel suspenseful. But each chapter, and I knew this going in and I pitched it this way to everybody, is character focused on one of the 5 people on these train tracks, and you're learning about their life, how they came to the train tracks, why they're here, and like what brought them to this point in their life, how their personality has been shaped by something that they have experienced. And I really liked this journey, but even so, I definitely wanted more of a thrilling element at the end, something grittier for sure. And I find myself reading general fiction like that a lot when it has so much momentum. You know what I mean? When there's general fiction that feels like it has like a pulse to it. It has really heightened emotions. It's clearly not a thriller, but it just feels like you're building to something. And then sometimes I'm let down when the ending is typical of a general fiction and it ends with like bad things happen to the bad people and good things happen to the good people. The person who was in turmoil finds hope at the end, and like the endings that the general public would think is acceptable. I just want them to go down a darker path almost always, and that's not really fair. And when I say that, you might be thinking of some more like actually suspenseful general fiction, so I'll give you what I'm actually talking about. Charlotte McConaughey. Like these two books are just general fiction about a woman's life, and I wanted them to end like with an explosion, right? Which is not where the books are headed, but because they have such momentum, I want them to end in like a crazy way that wouldn't even fit for what they are. And I found myself feeling that way about this book, even though there is a death at the end and it does end in a dark way. Like it delivers what it promises. I just wanted something a little bit, grittier. Or maybe it's that I wanted to be shocked by the ending and I wasn't. What this book does so well is introduce all of these characters and the tough stuff that they've endured and how it's impacted them. And like you find empathy for every single person in this book. And it's the epitome of you don't know what someone's been through until you can walk a mile in their shoes. In the little sections in between those chapters, it's like a couple pages on the train tracks and just building like something's to come, and like there's all of this charged energy between these people and you don't really know what's happening, and like everyone kind of feels like they're in danger. And those sections are also really funny, and it's this omniscient narrator that it's just so fun to read. I wanted those to go on so much longer because I was having so much fun with them. But you meet these characters and you have a very clear understanding of kind of who they are, and you don't really like them. And then once you get into their backstory, you feel for all of them, and it was so well written in that regard. I wanted this to be a 5 so bad, and so this is the answer to like a couple of my questions that I go through at the end. One is a book that I would recommend the most. I don't think I actually read that many books this month that I'm like objectively like everyone will kind of enjoy. This, if you're not a purely mystery thriller suspense reader, I would recommend this to almost anyone. Actually, even especially read this and then make your mom read it and then see what conversations come of that, because this is a book of childhood. I know I don't often love books about like early motherhood. I talk about this, and I feel like this feels like it's a book about motherhood, but I think it's a book about childhood. I feel like it's a book about being impacted by how you were raised, and recommending it to your mom could either be like the worst decision ever or the best decision ever, depending on like what comes of the conversations you could have after that. And also I'm going to call it disappointing just in that I wanted this to be a 5-star new favorite. And people, when they were talking about it, said that it was really clever and it was really well crafted. And I interpreted that a little bit differently than what it actually meant. Oh, you know what? I'm also going to answer this for best audiobook. This one and Sublimation, because there was like sound effects. There was really good narration. And in here, there was like a occasional, not too much, like dinging of the train, and just really good voice actors in here. My best book of the month was Dixon Descending. This got the highest rating. This is about a man and his brother trying to become the first Black American men to summit Everest, and it was really good. Least favorite, like I said, Fake It Till You Bake It. Actually, another kind of disappointing one, I guess, is Canon, because I thought this might be a favorite of all time. It just seemed really quirky and fun, and it didn't quite deliver everything that I wanted. So 3.75. But this is also my answer for favorite cover. I'll show it here so you can see like the proper graphics of it all. I think this is so beautiful, and I think that's why I want to keep it, because it looks good. Most surprising, I don't think there's anything this month that I gave a higher rating than I thought I would going into it. So I'm just gonna say most surprising as in like content. There was something about rejection that, oh my God, was like a lot. There's one specific story in here that was so sexual and it went on for so long, and it was so weird within it. It was pretty surprising. An author that I want to read more from, I definitely want to see what Paige Lewis does after this. I absolutely plan to read more Janice Hallett, and I will continue to pick up Taylor Adams. I just think he's like a solid suspense author that I appreciate, even though I give them a 4 every time. It's like I always know it's going to be a good enough time. And I can't say that for a lot of mystery thrillers these days. Favorite characters? I think it's Emma and all the side characters, like literally all the side characters. They make up this fun dynamic. Kind of when you're watching like Gilmore Girls and there's characters you're not supposed to like, but they make for the charm of the town. And so I like them all. And Niall was pretty strong in here. That's also my favorite cover though, to bring that question back. I'm gonna hate editing this. I'm gonna pop these all up over and over again. But I specifically bought these in hardcover because they come with this design. And I just love the pencil drawing of her and how this looks. It makes me feel like I'm reading like my Nancy Drews from when I was a kid. The literal construction of it, but also the color of this one, just, it felt very Nancy Drew, like blowing through the series, like connecting with the character all the time. Oh, and then favorite title, that's canon. I just like the idea of like the canon of the Bible and what we're uncovering here. I thought that was a fun title. Least favorite title, probably Nobody Asked. I didn't even ask, but now I have to make a new one of these. It's probably the Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon, because I feel like these should have different titles for each book. Like maybe just kind of like a subtitle so we can really distinguish one from another. Maybe that's just me. Let me know if you agree. And that is my June wrap up. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what your favorite book of the month was, or if I have encouraged you or swayed you away from any of these, reading any of these books yourself. Okay, bye.